Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rakan Kayali and welcome to Practical Islamic Finance, where we try to understand financial matters and build wealth in a way that is in line with Islamic principles. I've received the question about whether dropshipping is halal or haram numerous times, and so in this video I'm going to attempt to answer this very question. Before I start, if you live in the United States and you need halal funding that you can use for basically anything, go to fundmebff.com and apply for funding. On the other hand, if you are an investor and you earn more than $200,000 annually, and you're looking to make an investment that pays out monthly distributions and has had a risk-adjusted return that has been superior to all the other major asset classes since our inception in 2017, go to fundmebff.com and apply to become an investor. Alright, so a logical place to start with answering the question of whether dropshipping is halal or haram is to understand what dropshipping is. Dropshipping involves selling an item that you don't have in your possession, you don't own, selling this item, and then after making the sale, placing an order with a wholesaler who then ships the item directly to the customer who bought from you. So let's look at a visualization of this. So typically you have an online retailer, basically a website, and you have a buyer that is attracted to this website. And that's really where the value that the retailer is providing lies, that is attracting buyers to their website. So after a buyer places an order on that website, the retailer will then place an order with a wholesaler that provides the purchased item and ships it directly to the buyer. Now, there are many advantages for online retailers to do business this way. And the most obvious of which is the fact that when you're doing business this way, you don't have to keep any inventory. So you don't have to pay any storage costs of that inventory. Additionally, you make sure that you're only ordering exactly what you sell. So you're not ordering too much or too little of a particular product. And since the retailer is only placing an order with the wholesaler after they've made a sale, they don't need that much capital upfront to start their business because the buyer is essentially financing the retailer's purchases of the goods that they're selling. On the other hand, for the customer, the buyer, the advantage is that because the seller's costs are lower, since they don't have any inventory to maintain, they are able to sell at lower prices. And therefore, the buyer is getting a better price because eventually those storage costs that traditional retailers have to incur are passed on to customers. Whereas with dropshipping, those storage costs don't exist for the retailer. And for the wholesaler, the advantage is that they don't really have to worry about marketing their product. The online retailer does the marketing for them and routes the orders to the wholesaler to be fulfilled and shipped to the customers. Now, with the rise of online commerce, this method of doing business has become commonplace. So whether dropshipping is halal or haram is a very important question. Some commentators have objected to the halalness of dropshipping, citing the hadith from Hakim bin Hizam radiallahu anhu, wherein he comes to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and he asks him, "O Prophet of Allah, some people are coming to me and they're asking me to sell them things that I don't have with me. And so I sell them those things that they're asking. And then after I make the sale, I go to the marketplace, I find what it is that I sold, and then I deliver it to them." And the Prophet, peace be upon him, responded by saying, "Don't sell what is not with you." And so those who find that dropshipping is haram cite this hadith and say, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Don't sell what is not with you." Clearly, with dropshipping, as we saw, you're selling something that's not with you. You make the order to the supplier after you've made the sale. So this is haram. However, it is not true to say that this rule, don't sell what is not with you, is an absolute rule that applies in all cases. And how do we know this? There is another hadith, an authenticated hadith from the Prophet, peace be upon him, wherein he says he came to Medina and he saw that people sold dates 2 to 3 years before delivery. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever pays in advance the price of a thing to be delivered later should pay for known measure, weight, and delivery date. So basically, the delivery date, the weight, the measure of the thing that is to be delivered should all be specified if you're paying for something in advance. And so this hadith serves as an implicit approval of the practice of selling something in advance of delivery, even if that thing that you're selling is not with you. Because when the people of Medina were selling dates, they didn't have those dates. Those dates didn't even exist at the time of their sale. But the Prophet, peace be upon him, as we saw, didn't prohibit this sale. He placed criteria for how to perform this sale properly. And this type of sale is known as Salam. So now the question that suggests itself is, how do we know when it is not okay to sell what is not with us? And when it is okay, when it is allowable, permissible to sell that which is not with us? How do we distinguish between these two cases? When are we in this case and when are we in the Salam case? Well, to answer this question, we have to ask ourselves, what is the reason for the Prophet, peace be upon him's prohibition in this case, and the reason for his permission in this other case, in the case of Salam? Well, in the case of Hakim bin Hizam, radiallahu anhu, the Prophet, peace be upon him, is observing that his method of selling may put him in some not so desirable positions wherein either he goes to the market and he doesn't find the thing that he just sold, or he finds it for a price that is higher than what he was expecting. And in order to avoid any conflicts that may arise between the buyer and the seller, the Prophet, peace be upon him, in this case, forbade selling what is not with you. Now, in the case of the people in Medina, the farmers of dates who were selling their dates 2 to 3 years in advance of delivery, the supplier of the dates was willing and able to provide the dates at the specified measure and weight and delivery date. And this supplier was identified prior to the sale going through. So the criteria for understanding when this rule applies versus when this rule applies is the following. Do I have a willing and able supplier identified prior to the sale? So as it relates to dropshipping, what does this mean? If you're selling something and then you're going to figure out after you make the sale where you're going to get that thing from, you don't have a supplier in place. You don't have a tested, that is a proven to be able supplier in place. Then I think the rule that you should not sell that which is not with you applies. You should not be doing that. However, if you have a willing and able supplier in place, so the supply chain is well established, and this supply chain sees hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of products moving along this supply chain daily, then I think you're in the Salam situation, wherein it is fine to sell something that is not with you, because the supplier has been identified, it's in place prior to the sale happening. So for instance, let's say I have a website wherein I sell watches, and I don't have any watches with me. I make a sale on that website. If after I make the sale, I start to ask myself, well, okay, now I have this obligation to this customer. Let me figure out how I'm going to fulfill this obligation to this customer that I just sold to. Then that is impermissible, because that falls under selling something that is not with you. However, if my website was connected in some way to a wholesaler, wherein once it received a order for a particular watch, an order was placed with the wholesaler, and then the wholesaler shipped the product to the customer, then I think that that falls into the category of Salam. There's no problem with that. And now someone may say, well, with Salam, you only had 2 parties, but here you have 3 parties. Well, no, even in this case, in the case of dropshipping, there is 2 parties. You have the retailer and the purchaser. There are no conditions in Salam, and I found no conditions in any resource wherein it's stipulated that the Seller had to be the manufacturer or the supplier of the thing that is delivered. There is no such condition in Bay' Salam. So as I mentioned, the criteria for distinguishing between cases wherein it's not okay to sell that which is not with you and cases wherein it is okay to sell that which is not with you, the criteria is that you have to have a willing and able supplier in place prior to the purchase if you're going to sell using this method. It's not okay to make the sale and then figure out who your supplier is going to be. There are some additional considerations that you need to take into account. So, for example, you need to make sure that when you're making a sale that you have a proper description of the item being sold so the buyer knows exactly what they are buying. I actually bought furniture recently and I was able to, through augmented reality, I was able to see how the furniture would fit, see it visualized through my phone in my living room and in my dining room. And actually, it's sitting in boxes outside. So the more adequate description you provide to the thing that you're selling, the less possibility there is for conflict. So Islam encourages this. The second consideration is that you're not dropshipping a ribawi item. So you're not dropshipping gold, for instance, or silver, or any other currency. Because if you are, with delay, that can become an interest-bearing loan. And then the third thing is that the retailer accepts liability. So if you're selling something, you're doing the dropshipping thing, and you have an online website, and you sold something to a customer, and for whatever reason, your supplier doesn't come through for you, doesn't deliver to the customer, that's on you. You need to make sure that you do right by the customer. It's not okay for you to say, oh, well, the wholesaler bailed on me and therefore I'm not responsible. No, you're responsible. So long as you're profiting from this sale, then you assume the liability of that sale. Remember, al-ghanmu bil-gharm, the right to profit belongs to whosoever bears the risk of loss. Finally, if you're thinking about dropshipping, my 2 cents, my 2 words of advice is that, first of all, don't expect it to be easy. It's super hard to make any meaningful amount of money through dropshipping. Getting customers' attention, driving them to your website is not an easy task by any means. However, it is a great way to get started in business if that's what you're into. It's a great way to get your toes wet in entrepreneurship with very little capital up front. Very few people are able to make a living with dropshipping, but it can be a supplement to your income if you do it right. The thing I want to warn you against are all of the scams, all of the fake dropshipping gurus out there that are trying to sell you courses, $1,000 each. Hey, take my course. You're going to become a millionaire doing dropshipping. Avoid those people like the plague. Everything you need to know about dropshipping, you can find online and on YouTube for free. So that was my view on dropshipping. I hope you found it beneficial. Any views expressed on this channel are my views and my views only. I encourage you to seek out other opinions and follow the view that you think is going to give you the strongest argument on the day of judgment. If you liked anything in this video, make sure you leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe for more content. Remember, if you're in the United States and you need halal funding, go to fundmebff.com. If you're an investor, you earn more than $200,000 annually, and you're looking to invest in a halal investment that pays out monthly distributions and has beat all of the major asset classes in the last 3 years, go to fundmebff.com and apply to become an investor. I have lost my voice. I need to go put together a bunch of furniture. Until next time, take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.